Do you know what nobody is talking about right now? It's not China's growth. It's not India's borders. It's not the headlines about trade wars or tariffs. It's something far more powerful. Something quiet. Something invisible. A deal that could change the balance of power in Asia and the world forever. For decades, China and India were portrayed as rivals. Governments clashed. Media painted them as enemies. Economies competed. Everyone assumed conflict was inevitable. But the truth is completely different. Behind the cameras, behind closed doors, something extraordinary is happening. Agreements are being signed. Supply chains are being connected. Technology projects are being coordinated. And when it is fully realized, this deal could redefine the rules of global trade, technology, and influence. Look at the last 10 years. India used to depend on foreign technology, foreign manufacturing, foreign capital. Today it is building its own digital networks, creating local manufacturing hubs, investing in AI and semiconductors. China, meanwhile, is quietly looking for stability, for markets, for partners that can strengthen its global strategy. And somehow these two nations, historical rivals, are finding alignment where everyone expects rivalry. You see, when everyone assumes rivalry, the smartest players find alignment. When the world focuses on conflict, the real moves are happening in silence. Factories, tech parks, logistics, energy distribution, everything is being coordinated in ways that are invisible to the public eye. While the headlines scream about disputes, the foundation for a new power dynamic is quietly being laid, and it's working. China brings experience, capital, and infrastructure. India brings talent, youth, and a fast-growing tech sector. Together, they are forming a silent partnership that shifts influence from the West to Asia, from old hierarchies to a new emerging order. The consequences are enormous. Every business, every investor, every nation paying attention will feel the ripple effects. And yes, this could affect your job, the apps you use, even the products on your shelf. India's tech exports are exploding. Its startup ecosystem is booming. Chinese investors are looking for stability and new opportunities. Key projects in energy, digital infrastructure, and AI are already underway. Rare earth supply chains, previously dominated by China, are being quietly shared with Indian partners. New semiconductor and battery deals are being discussed. Trade corridors are being upgraded, and all this happens while the world thinks the nations are at odds. But here's what makes it so powerful. Neither China nor India wants to dominate the other. Neither wants to replace anyone. They are building a new kind of strength, a synergy that is flexible, adaptive, and unstoppable. And the world will only realize its significance years from now when it is too late to counter it. Think about it. While the United States focuses on domestic politics, Europe worries about inflation, and smaller nations try to pick sides. China and India are quietly building a foundation of power that cannot be ignored. Every strategic investment, every joint project, every new alliance strengthens the deal, and the speed of execution is unlike anything the world has ever seen. Look at the numbers. India's GDP growth consistently outpaces most major economies. Its tech exports are rising faster than anyone predicted. Manufacturing hubs are emerging across India. Meanwhile, China's global investment strategy targets complementary regions, ensuring that this silent partnership strengthens both nations without public fanfare. And here's the subtle brilliance. The deal does not require headlines. There are no press conferences, no dramatic announcements. The world believes conflict dominates the region, but the real story is quiet, deliberate, and unstoppable. And the moment the world finally notices, the position of power will have already shifted. This is the moment that history will remember. A deal that nobody talks about, a partnership that changes the rules, a quiet revolution in Asia. And yet most people will never see it coming. Every trade agreement, every tech collaboration, every supply chain restructuring brings China and India closer. Every move strengthens the invisible bridge between them. And when the bridge is complete, it will redefine who controls technology, energy, trade, and influence across Asia and the world. The implications are enormous. Businesses will adjust, investors will shift, governments will reconsider alliances, and ordinary people, the ones who scroll past headlines, will be affected without even realizing why. Look closely. China and India have learned an important lesson. Conflict is costly. It drains resources, distracts from growth, and invites global scrutiny. Cooperation, when done quietly and strategically, multiplies power, and the world is only just beginning to see it. Factories are being built, ports are being upgraded, digital networks are being shared, energy corridors are being mapped, semiconductor research is being jointly discussed. And all of this is happening under the radar. The headlines focus on conflict. The world ignores the silent revolution. And that is the advantage these nations hold. India is young, ambitious, and hungry. China is experienced, capital-rich, and precise. Together, they are building something no one predicted. And when the world finally realizes it, the shift will be unstoppable. This is the new balance of power quietly forming in the shadows of global attention. Do not underestimate it. Do not dismiss it. This is history in motion. The deal nobody talks about is quietly rewriting the rules of global influence. And when it becomes obvious, the consequences will be felt everywhere. Trade, technology, finance, and geopolitics. The world will look back and wonder how it never saw it coming. But the truth is, it was always happening. Quietly, deliberately, strategically. For decades, everyone believed China and India would never cooperate. Rivalry was written into the headlines, into history books, into every political analysis. Border clashes, trade disputes, military posturing. This was the story everyone accepted. But here's the thing. Rivalry can create opportunity. Sometimes the fiercest competition plants the seeds of the strongest partnerships. Think about it. Conflict sharpens the mind. Rivalry reveals weaknesses. And when two nations have clashed, argued, and tested each other for decades, they know exactly what each can and cannot do. That knowledge, when used strategically, becomes power, and that's exactly what China and India are doing now. India learned from rivalry. It realized that constantly reacting to China's moves is a trap. If you follow blindly, you never control your own path. So India began building its own capabilities. AI, semiconductors, manufacturing hubs, energy independence, digital infrastructure, each step a countermeasure, each investment a long-term signal. And in parallel, China learned something equally critical. Absolute confrontation is costly. Pushing India too hard drains resources, invites global scrutiny, and risks creating instability where none should exist. So what do rivals do when they understand each other's strengths and limits? They find common ground. The borders that once divided them now become areas of calculated engagement. Trade routes that were blocked are now quietly optimized. Investments once withheld are now strategically considered. And suddenly, what looked like enemies becomes an invisible collaboration orchestrated with precision. You see, history repeats itself in patterns. Look at the greatest rivalries in business, in empires, in nations. Often the fiercest competitors become the most powerful allies, when survival and growth depend on it. China and India understood that fully. They realized that the world around them, Western powers, global supply chains, digital networks, is evolving rapidly. If they keep clashing openly, they lose. If they cooperate silently, they multiply their influence, and the results are already visible, even if most people don't notice. China invests in Indian infrastructure quietly. India allows certain Chinese tech collaborations in energy and logistics. They coordinate supply chains for rare minerals and manufacturing. They share knowledge in areas like AI and renewable energy. Each of these moves, invisible on the news, is deliberate. Each is calculated to create mutual strength without public acknowledgement. India, by its nature, benefits from rivalry. It has learned to move fast, adapt, and innovate under pressure. China, by its nature, benefits from strategic patience. Together, they complement each other in a way the world has never anticipated. What seems impossible, the two largest nations in Asia, historical rivals quietly collaborating, is in fact the most logical, most powerful move they could make. Think about this. Every time a new border tension appears in the media, every time trade disputes are reported, most analysts see conflict. But the real story is that these headlines are distractions. While the world reacts emotionally, the real strategy is quietly unfolding. Investments are being made, factories are being built, trade corridors are being strengthened. And by the time the public realizes, the partnership is already unstoppable. China and India's rivalry gave birth to discipline, innovation, and strategic thinking. India developed self-reliance and ingenuity. China developed patience and precision. And when these traits meet, they don't clash, they synchronize. That is why the secret deal, the one nobody talks about, is not just possible, it's inevitable. And let's not forget the stakes. The global economy is shifting. Technology leadership is changing hands. Supply chains are being redefined. Energy networks are being recalculated. And in the middle of all this, China and India are quietly positioning themselves as the central axis of the New World Order. Every decision, every strategic move, every alignment reinforces this invisible bridge. Here's what makes it even more striking. The world still underestimates India. Analysts talk about China's strength, its global strategy, its technological advances. India, meanwhile, quietly grows, learns, and positions itself alongside China. The public sees rivalry, but the nations see opportunity. And that is why the next decade will surprise the world. So understand this, rivalry was not a barrier. Rivalry was the teacher. And the lesson it taught both China and India is simple. Cooperation in silence, when timed perfectly, is far more powerful than conflict in public. And today that lesson is being applied. The implications are enormous. Every tech company, every global investor, every nation watching Asia will feel the shift. Supply chains, energy flows, trade patterns, even geopolitical alliances, everything is subtly being recalibrated. And most importantly, it is happening without fanfare, without headlines, without public recognition. China and India's rivalry created the perfect conditions for this secret deal. The world saw two competitors. They saw conflict. They assumed the only path forward was tension and competition. But the nations themselves saw the opposite, alignment disguised as rivalry. And that is the genius, that is the power. In the next part, we will dive even deeper into the specific deals, technology exchanges, and trade partnerships that are currently shaping this unprecedented collaboration. You will see how factories, ports, energy corridors, and AI labs are quietly being aligned to create the most significant power shift in decades. But for now, remember this, history is rarely written in headlines. It is written in quiet, deliberate actions, and China and India are already writing it. While the world debates tariffs and headlines, China and India are quietly reshaping the global order. This isn't just diplomacy, it's a strategic realignment. Consider this. China has recently eased export restrictions on critical goods like rare earth magnets, fertilizers, and tunnel boring machines to India. This move isn't just a trade gesture, it's a calculated step to stabilize supply chains and foster deeper economic ties. But here's the catch. These actions are subtle, often going unnoticed by the global community, yet they carry profound implications. On the ground, Indian and Chinese companies are exploring joint ventures in electronics manufacturing. For instance, Indian firms like Dixon Technologies and Micromax are collaborating with Chinese companies such as HKC and Huaqin to produce components like display modules and circuit boards. These partnerships are not just about cost efficiency, they're about building resilience in supply chains and leveraging each other's strengths. Moreover, India is ramping up its domestic capabilities. The Make in India initiative is gaining momentum, with the government addressing challenges like rare earth shortages through the National Critical Minerals Mission. This strategy aims to reduce dependency on external sources and secure essential resources for future technologies. Simultaneously, China is investing in India's infrastructure and technology sectors. These investments are not just about economic gain, they're about creating a symbiotic relationship that benefits both nations in the long term. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter to me? Well, these behind-the-scenes deals and partnerships are setting the stage for a new economic landscape. The products you use, the technologies you rely on, and the services you access are all part of this evolving ecosystem. Understanding these shifts can provide insights into the future of global trade and technology. As we continue to witness this unfolding narrative, it's clear that the China-India relationship is more than just a bilateral affair. It's a cornerstone in the emerging global order, one that will influence economies, industries, and lives worldwide. The world is about to realize something quietly monumental. While headlines shout about conflicts, tariffs, and political posturing, the real power shift is happening behind the scenes, and it will affect every corner of the globe. America still holds immense influence, but the center of gravity is moving. Asia, led by India and China, is quietly positioning itself as the engine of the next global order. India is rising, not by force, not by confrontation, but by strategy, technology, and vision. Factories are being built, ports upgraded, AI labs and semiconductor plants expanded. Supply chains are being reinforced in ways no one in the West notices. Meanwhile, China is ensuring its investments strengthen both stability and growth, quietly avoiding public drama while maximizing long-term leverage. Together, these nations are creating an axis of economic, technological, and geopolitical influence that will define the next decade. The consequences for the rest of the world are enormous. Companies that once relied entirely on China for manufacturing are diversifying to India. Investors seeking growth and stability are turning their eyes eastward. Global trade routes are being recalibrated. New technology hubs are emerging. And yet, most of the world is distracted, looking at daily headlines and assuming the old rules still apply. For America and Europe, this is a warning. Power is shifting not because of sudden wars or dramatic events, but because of quiet, deliberate strategy. Decisions made today in New Delhi and Beijing will define supply chains, tech leadership, and energy access for decades. The nations that once seemed too distant or too small to influence the global stage are now quietly crafting the rules. India's youth, talent, and innovation, combined with China's infrastructure, experience, and capital, create a synergy that is almost unstoppable. Policies, trade agreements, and partnerships are being executed quietly, methodically, and with precision. Every joint venture, every investment, every logistics plan adds another brick to a foundation that will support global influence far beyond what most analysts predict. And here's the subtle brilliance. The shift doesn't announce itself. There will be no fireworks, no immediate recognition. One day the world will wake up and realize that key decisions are no longer being made only in Washington or Brussels. They are being influenced from Asia through partnerships that were built quietly over years of strategic patience and careful planning. This is how global power moves in the modern era, not with dramatic wars or headlines, but with collaboration, foresight, and execution. India and China have learned from rivalry and transformed it into cooperation. They are executing plans that will secure energy independence, technology leadership, and trade dominance. And as this happens, the world must adapt or risk being left behind. The next decade will be defined by those who recognize this shift early, by those who understand the silent deals, the partnerships, and the emerging centers of power. India and China are not asking for permission. They are quietly taking their place on the global stage, and by the time the world notices, their influence will be undeniable. For individuals, businesses, and nations, the lesson is clear. Watch closely, adapt swiftly, and understand that the quiet moves of today will shape the loud headlines of tomorrow. And for those paying attention, this is an opportunity to understand, to align, and to prepare for a new world where influence flows east, where partnerships replace old rivalries, and where execution, not intention, defines power. History is being written not with proclamations, but with actions that are deliberate, subtle, and unstoppable. China and India are quietly changing the rules, and the world is only just beginning to see it. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel.